All right, everybody, good afternoon once again. We've got more Seahawks news. This pertains to the practice squad, and you guys know that I'm a big fan of the practice squad out there. Always interested to see who the team feels like is worth keeping around, but they just can't make the right amount of space for them on the active roster. So, earlier today, it was announced that the Seahawks have committed to 12 players so far to their practice squad, and it's going to be 13. We know who 13 is going to be. Now, to remind everybody, there are 16 spots on a practice squad, but we get 17 if one of our players is Aaron Donkor. And as you can see from this tweet I have on screen, he is. So this is most of the practice squad, a good chunk of the practice squad, but we still have a few more to go. But this is going to be the big chunk of it. This is going to be the most interesting guys in all likelihood because, again, there's a process. I outlined it in the previous video where a player gets waived, goes through waivers, gets claimed. If nobody claims you off waivers, if nobody claims a player off of waivers, then it's kind of a free-for-all. And what happens to a good chunk of them is they end up on a practice squad. And a lot of them end up on the practice squad of the team that initially waived them because that's where they built experience, that's where they built familiarity, and it's just an opportunity for them to stick around and be part of the organization without taking up a 53-man spot. So, again, there's that process. You get waived, you can get claimed off waivers to another team's 53-man, and then the next step is usually you try to get claimed as a practice squatter on the team that released you or waived you. And then if that doesn't work, you might try to get on the practice squad of another team, which is actually what Jacob Eason has done. He's off to the Panthers practice squad, I believe. So that's generally speaking the process. And the Seahawks actually had no players get claimed during waiver period. So I guess that's a little bit of an indication of the fact that teams don't view our roster as being particularly stacked, because they don't want any of the players we let go. I remember in the old days, 10 years ago, the Seahawks would release a player, and it was a bloodbath to get to him. A lot of very highly respected guys got released by the Seahawks because our roster was just so good. And that's not the case anymore. But the good part of that is that you get to keep as many of the guys as you want, because if they can't get claimed by another team, they will jump at the opportunity to join your practice squad most of the time. So we've got 12, soon to be 13 players. Let's take a look here. Nothing terribly surprising, but some interesting stuff here. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, wide receiver. Greg Eiland, tackle. Cade Johnson, wide receiver. Vi Jones, linebacker. Tyler Mabry, tight end. Bo Melton, wide receiver. Quandre Mosley, cornerback. Tanner Muse, linebacker. Scott Nelson, safety. Liam Ryan, tackle. Darwin Thompson, running back, and Aaron Donkor, linebacker. So, mostly predictable. Quandre Mosley is the one guy who wasn't part of this team in the preseason. I believe we tried him out the other day, and now we're going to actually make him part of our practice squad. And I would be remiss to leave out the fact that one of the open spots is going to player number 13, Sean Mannion. So he's going to be our practice squad quarterback. Sean Mannion's a guy who we've actually been connected to in recent off seasons before. I believe he played at Oregon State. I think I even maybe talked about him extensively in a video last year when we were looking at him more closely in the off season. But he's going to be our practice squad quarterback. There's a connection between him and Shane Waldron from the Rams, I believe, when he was over there. And at the end of the day, I guess he's a little more accurate than Jacob Eason, because everybody is. Probably doesn't have the same arm, but at the end of the day, you've got to value one more than the other. So that's your practice squad, these 12 guys plus Sean Mannion. We're going to get 4 more, likely. You usually don't leave a practice squad spot open. But as for these guys, I'm still a fan of Cade Johnson. I still think he could be something one day. It's not overly likely, but his skill set intrigues me. There's something there. V. Jones had a nice preseason, so the possibility of him turning into a depth player later this year or next year, I think, exists. Bo Melton is exciting. He just needs to sort out his hands. I believe Bo Melton's a player who can add value on special teams and offense. Tanner Muse is a guy who I had a little bit of a crush on last year when we picked him up as a safety, but we're apparently going to be using him as a linebacker because that's where the need is. I'm a little concerned about his size, but I like him as a player. Scott Nelson was one of the, I believe, UDFA safeties we picked up that I liked. He didn't make the 53-man, but he's going to be sticking around. That's exciting. And Darwin Thompson had a couple of nice plays in the preseason. I'm not going to say there's anything there. One interesting sidebar here, Josh Johnson did clear waivers as an injured player, so he basically reverts back to Seattle's IR, more or less. So he's not going to play for now, but he is actually part of this team still. He's just on the injured list. So he's not on the practice squad for that reason. Also, no Aaron Fuller, so the dream is dead. But hey, other than that, I'm pretty happy with this selection of players. It's mostly what you would have expected. I mean, Tyler Mabry and Greg Island are probably permanent fixtures on this practice squad until the heat death of the universe. They're just always going to kind of be there for you. You can promote them if somebody in front of them gets injured, and they'll be warm bodies. It's nice to have those guys around. You got to have guys like that sometimes. You're not going to get through the whole season healthy. Some people are going to find it very interesting that Arcega-Whiteside made it because we did trade for him. And the fact that we released him and nobody claimed him tells you that his reputation in the NFL right now is down in the dirt. Like, this is a guy who was a second-round pick not that long ago, and he can't even get a waiver claim. But his size does present a little bit of a unique player to have around on your practice squad, I guess. So I doubt anything comes of most of this, but something can come from some of this. So we'll see what we do with the last 4 spots in the coming days. I would be very surprised if we left that opportunity to claim 4 more players just unvisited, as it were. Looking at the players that we have here, you'd probably want to add an inside offensive lineman because we don't have any. Island and Ryan are both tackles, so I'm looking for us to maybe add a guard or center on the practice squad. I'm surprised we didn't claim Dakota Shepley yet because I know he got waived. Maybe we're going to add him at a later date because I know this team likes him, his snap issue notwithstanding. And maybe we still have to add an edge rusher here because Aaron Donkor, kind of the closest thing we have to one on this list. So that's what I'm anticipating in the coming days. But let me know what you guys think. By the way, one last thing here. Players that are on the practice squad can no longer be poached by other teams throughout the season. Once they're on, there's a commitment there. In the old days, a player on the practice squad could be poached at any time by other teams. Not happening now. So that's a positive as well. We don't have to worry about losing these players all of a sudden mid-season. So there's your initial practice squad. Off to a pretty good start, I think. I'm happy. Let me know what you guys think down below. I should be on Twitch later tonight. Maybe during, maybe after the Mariners game. Hope to see you guys there. Peace out. Go Hawks. And it's all coming together, people. It's all coming together.